So, this is not actually a session. This is a quiz, and there is only one question. Did you have coffee this morning? If no, stop me and I'll try to fix that. It's been a long evening. So, my name is Bojan Živanović and I live in Pančevo, which is a small city outside of Belgrade. We are known for two things, our oil refinery and Circle Web Foundry. And I work for a company called Commerce Guys. You heard that part from Ryan yesterday. We are a fully distributed company with people in Serbia, in Hungary, in Israel, and in the United States. Since we are fully distributed, there is no office. We just steal minhas from time to time. And we do most of our work Slack in multiple time zones. Our mission is to help teams succeed with commerce, which means providing any kind of help that is needed for a commerce project to complete successfully, adding missing features, training, doing architecture, whatever. We started Drupal Commerce with the idea of creating a native e-commerce solution for Drupal. And we released the first version, the first stable version of Commerce for Drupal 7 in late August 2011. So that was 7 years ago. And since then, we've reached up to 60,000 live installs. The idea with Commerce was easy. If you know Drupal, then you already know Drupal Commerce. The same mechanisms. Creating rules, creating views, theming, all of the knowledge that you already have, you apply it to commerce, and then you can create an advanced website having to integrate an external system and have to learn how to synchronize users, synchronize data, their own extension points, and all of those complex things. And then for Drupal 8, since Drupal 8 was a big shift, we started from scratch. And we spent years building a new e-commerce platform that's pretty much only shared the name with the previous one, and we succeeded. 1 year ago, we released the 2.0 release, and we had about 13 release parties all over Europe, in Pakistan, in Canada, where people just ate cake and celebrated the release, which shows that there was already a decent number of agencies creating websites on this previously beta platform, which was great. And after we made this release, we created a roadmap for the first time. We publicly documented everything we were going to work on in the next 6 months or more, and we decided to make monthly releases. In the Drupal 7 days, people just use dev releases all the time, but we said every month, every first Wednesday of the month, we are going to make a new release to ship new improvements and features to users so we can get them off dev releases forever. And in the past year, we've had 11 releases, and all of our users are now on the previous two stable releases, which is great. Our community has grown a lot, and I'm super proud of it. Over time, people have moved to the Drupal Slack, so they've abandoned IRC. And now the commerce channel on Drupal Slack is the most active channel on the entire Slack. We have the most users and the most messages. We just cannot shut up. There's 1,000 people there, and if you're not already on the channel, do join, because we discuss any kind of roadblock. We share status reports, updates. It's a great place to be. We are now up to 6,600 reported installs. We started the year with about, 2,000, so this has been great growth. This only represents about 11% of total Drupal Commerce installs, so we still have room to grow. It's time to start your own Drupal 8 websites. And if there's 1,000 people on Slack, that means each of them made 6.6 websites. That's a lot of websites for individual people, but maybe they're not all on Slack. So some of those sites are pretty cool. Has any one of you ever ordered flowers online? Yeah, me neither. But apparently it's a thing to do. Yeah, so Ruben has. It's a thing to do in Western Europe. Interflora Denmark is a site that allows you to order flowers and then send them to multiple addresses, which is obviously something they want to do, yeah. And they sponsored our new shipping module so that you can select multiple addresses and send multiple products at the same time. It's a really nice site made by Adapt, one of the local agencies. And people often ask whether Drupal Commerce can support a large number of products. And for that, we have a great new website that was developed by Media up in Norway. It's called Akademika, and it's basically their main bookstore for all of the Norwegian universities. They have 10 million products inside Commerce, inside a regular MySQL database. And people ask them, how is that possible? They've been doing it for a while now. So it really shows that we do not really have a limitation in terms of how many products we can have. And of course, they have something like 200,000 updates to those products each day because things go out of stock, they return, and all of that. And then the third interesting website is called ZKungFu, which is a Chinese fast food chain. They have 600 franchises in 43 cities, and they make $1 billion a year. So $1 billion gets moved into their accounts because people eat a lot of fast food. And each of their franchises has their own point of sale terminal, and then they use a headless commerce install at the center of it to accept orders and do all of the processing. So it's pretty much the biggest headless Drupal 8 commerce website that has been launched. And it's also been a great showcase for what we can do in that area. The sweet spot for all of these commerce websites is the more complex website, this website that has more complex requirements. And some of them are, for example, needing multiple languages. Drupal 7 was so-so at it, but Drupal 8 is really good at it. Or multiple stores, which basically represent different billing locations. In China, that means each store gets its own store entity, so that you can bill from that place. We also have a US site that they sell beef jerky, so they have 100 locations, and each of them is represented in the commerce system with a store. While we were developing Commerce 2.x, we decided that we needed to increase the number of features that we have in core. Previously, you needed dozens of modules for just to assemble a regular website, and we decided to increase the size of our own code base so that people have an easier time. And because of that, we've removed the need for over half of 1.x contributed modules. There's a lot more functionality, which means that nowadays you can just download Commerce, download shipping, and you can have a website functional. And there's actually a Google link with a full list if you use Drupal 7 so that you know what you don't need to migrate. And the reason why we need so many modules less is because of all of these small features. For example, in checkout, we can have multiple checkout flows so that you can have a different checkout experience for different products. And we added various bits and pieces such as a checkout progress bar, the ability to log in or register, reuse previous cards, all of that. It's really nice. We also added a promotion system. In Drupal 7, you needed a discount module. Now there's a nice UI, and it's all extensible right in Commerce so that you can discount a specific product or the entire order by a percentage, by a fixed amount, or you can do buy X, get Y, which means if you buy 2 t-shirts, the third one is free, or it's maybe €1 or something like that. The great thing is that the offers are plugins, so if you have a client with some crazy requirements, you can just code it up yourself in no time. And then the promotions have conditions that allow you to configure when a promotion applies. So you can say, this promotion is only valid for this group of users or people on this date. And for that, we also have a generic system that replaces the way we used rules in Drupal 7. And it's also available on payment gateways and on shipping methods so that you can say match only these products, these customers, these orders, and so on. Of course, we have coupons attached to that so that you can create multiple coupons for each promotion and you can redeem them at checkout. There's also functionality for bulk generating coupons so that you can generate 1,000 at once and then hand them out. There are usage limits, all of the things that did multiple modules before. We significantly improved the payment API. You now get an admin UI out of the box so that you can refund payments and capture authorizations. And we have a lot more endpoints which means that if you're writing a payment gateway, you just need to connect the actual API calls. And since we're using Composer, you can use an existing SDK to do that. Previously, you would spend a week or two writing a payment gateway. Now you can get it done in a day, hopefully, if the gateway is not too terrible. There are plenty of terrible ones in Europe. Because of that, we already have 100 payment gateways up on Drupal.org, and that number is only going to increase. In our documentation, we have a list of them, and we try to list the features, what kind of a gateway they are, and so on. So if you're looking for a payment gateway, you want to start from our documentation. We also have support for manual payments built in. So in Serbia, it's pretty common for you to order something and then pay on delivery to the driver that brought you the package. This is the plugin that you would use for that, so that you can show payment instructions at the end of checkout and say, you'll pay when the thing comes. And you can use it also for bank transfer or payment by check or any kind of other manual payment process where the website is not actually receiving money. We improved our taxes, which is not super relevant if you're in Serbia, but it's super relevant if you do business in the EU, because in the European Union you need to be aware of the rates of all countries, because they might get selected under specific conditions. For example, if you sell digital products. So when you install Commerce, you actually get all of the European Union tax rates kept up to date in the system, and we know when to select them when you have a digital product versus a physical one, if you're selling B2B versus B2C. So it's like having a small tax cloud, and it's really cool. I already mentioned that we have a documentation site, so you've probably noticed that historically documentation hasn't been Drupal's strong side, but we now have a documentation lead and a documentation site, and we spend significant time writing docs. So if you're just learning commerce, make sure to go to this website and see what it has to offer. We will keep expanding that and covering additional modules and topics so that you can learn commerce just from this website and not care about ebooks or just extracting knowledge out of people on Slack. Now, of course, you won't just use commerce. You need a payment gateway, and you very often need one of the ecosystem modules to finish your website. Let's look at what that ecosystem has. So there are many sites that are migrating from a different system. We have a Commerce Migrate module that was developed by the core migrate maintainers, and it allows you to move data from UberCart on Drupal 6 or Drupal 7, or from Commerce on Drupal 7, so that in an easy way you can just pull in the data and have your website ready. They also started to work on migrations for Magento 2 and WooCommerce. So if you can persuade someone to leave Magento and join the dark side, you can also do that. And of course, that's made to be extended. So if you have any custom data, you can extend the migrations and customize them. Many sites need shipping. We also increased the size of the shipping module, added many new features. We now have built-in support for flat rate, so you can say, I'm going to charge people 5 euros per product, or I'm going to charge them 20 euros for the entire order, no matter how many products it has. There are many remote APIs being integrated, such as FedEx and UPS and USPS, that is still being worked on. Or multiple shipments, you can send your flowers to multiple addresses, and we support automatic splitting so that you can ship from multiple warehouses or divide packages based on weight or whatever you need to do. A lot more functionality, and this is something that not all other systems have, so it's a really great plus for our platform. In the Drupal 7 days, license was also a popular module because it allowed you to complete checkout as a customer and then get access to something. So we would provision a platform.sh instance for you because you bought platform, or we'd give you a role that says you're now a premium user, or maybe you just got a file to download. And license is used for all of that. It's already functional. It's still in alpha because it's missing a few features. We want to stabilize that, but you can start using it today. We also have a really decent recurring API, which allows you to charge people every month or every year, however you want to do it. You can charge them at the beginning of the period or at the end if you're actually charging them based on something they used, such as storage or bandwidth, I don't know, useful for hosting. They can change plans, and when they change plans, we know to modify the price based on how many days they've used something, which is called prorating. And if we do not manage to charge their cards, we will actually send them emails and then retry every few days, which is called dunning. All of that usually requires some kind of external system that gives you these features, but now they're all here in Commerce. We have support for multiple price lists. This is usually used for B2B websites, the idea being that the product doesn't just have one price. It has many prices for different groups of users, divided by a role or maybe just for a specific user. And then you can have different prices for different quantities. So one price if you buy up to 50, the other price if you buy up to 100. Or maybe you just have special prices for the holidays or something. That's what price list is used for. We have a CSV import. We've really optimized performance. Akademika actually uses this, so they have over 200,000 prices in the system, and they select them based on all of these criteria. So that's also a cool module that we developed this year. And finally, we are developing a reports module so that you can see what you sold, how much money you earned, what you need to report to the tax authorities. We don't have graphs yet, but that's also something that would be really nice to add. So we need help from someone who knows the JS graphing libraries. We also have a point of sale system. If you decide to open your restaurant or supermarket and you insist on using Drupal Commerce for that, because why not, we're cool, you can use the point of sale module, which is developed by Acromedia in Canada, and it has a really nice interface for a cashier to input products and take people's money. We've worked a lot on improving the evaluator experience for commerce. I don't know if you've seen a naked install that just uses Bartik, but it looks pretty sad. So we developed a completely custom theme. It's called Belgrade, and it's based on Bootstrap, so you can customize that for your own websites. We want to keep the city theme going, so I think the next theme will be called Tel Aviv, which is like the white cities, and for our colleague Jonathan. But anyway, Belgrade is a nice theme to base your own site on, and it's a nice theme to learn from. It has decent colors, it has styling for checkout, styling for products, and we coupled that with a module called Commerce Demo, which creates 50 sample products, a few product types, so that you can show faceted search to clients, so that you can show switching variations, zooming on images, everything that a basic website needs to have. So you can use it either to start your own website on it, to show it to clients, or maybe just as a learning resource, because you get to see what the best practices are for theming, for configuring. There's just a lot to digest there. And of course, an image is not as practical as actually clicking on something, so you can, well, here we have URL, so you can try this on your phone or on your desktop if you want to see how it looks. One part is the cart flyout, which is this special sliding cart we've created, which is purely JS based, and we did the same with the add to cart form. So if your clients need something that's a bit smoother than the default commerce experience, this is also a great module to try. These are the relevant links, the things you want to download. So the commerce demo module, the Belgrade theme, and at the end we have a composer project, which allows you to use a single command to get a complete Drupal website with the demo store. Basically what Commerce Kickstart was in the Drupal 7 days. But since Drupal.org cannot package distributions for Drupal 8 right now, because it doesn't support Composer, we need to do it this way. It's a great way to start a website. So that was the present. But there's still plenty that we need to do to make commerce the best e-commerce solution in the world. And let's dive into that a bit. we need to start by redeveloping our websites. Right now, the websites are pretty old, and we need to have great resources for convincing not just developers, but also agency owners and possible merchants. So we need to divide that into multiple target audiences, and we need to have ready sales material that you can use to persuade someone to use commerce or to give you money to give them commerce. And of course, so that the site can be a better learning resource. And we are planning to spend significant time improving that whole story. It's important enough to mention. We're also working on integrating with the various experimental modules that Drupal 8 brings. So you've probably heard that every 6 months, Drupal 8 has a new major release, and that release ships with new features. One of them is Layout Builder, which is something like panels for Drupal 8. And it allows you to immediately create a layout and then put fields into the various parts of the layout, which is great because usually your product page has 2 columns and various fields thrown around. Layout Builder is still experimental, and you still cannot use it with Commerce, so we are hoping to make it compatible very soon before it becomes stable, and then you can just click together your UIs if that's what you want to do. Right now, we usually recommend that people use straight Twig, which is cleaner if you're a themer, but it's great to have that choice. We are also working on an improved REST API. Right now, you can install JSON API, and that will give you something that you can work with. But JSON API is really low level. It exposes just the naked entities, which is not super practical for commerce because we to deal in groups of entities. So an order is made out of order items, you have a customer profile, you have payments, and it's not cool to have to make 20 REST requests to just prepare something. So we need to extend that API to get something that's easier to use, that has online API documentation, that has SDKs, so that if you're developing a site that needs this, it's all included out of the box. And I think that we'll probably need to develop a completely custom REST implementation for that will then support versioning and everything else. I've also talked to plenty of people who do JS-based front ends, and what they really like is GraphQL. The nice thing about GraphQL is that you do not need to look at the API docs. You get just request the data that you need and then use it in your component. And Drupal has a GraphQL module. This was mentioned before. I think Stefan talked about it. We are going to start by ensuring we work well with that module and then see where we can go from there so that we have a parallel GraphQL API for those that prefer it. Now, GraphQL can be used not just for reading, but also for writing. And I think that the Drupal module doesn't support mutations yet, but it's something that we are planning to improve in the future. And we'll see how that's going to go. Still, it's something that's on our minds. And in the past few months, we've been discussing this idea of modernizing Drupal's admin interface. There are multiple initiatives in core that are trying to retheme the existing UI, but also to replace it with something that was made in React so that it's smoother, it's nicer to use by merchants, well, by users. And we want to do the same with commerce. We've started an effort with 1x Internet so that we recreate the commerce admin pages in React possibly. And it's still a very early effort. We have nothing to show for it, but we are making progress. I'm hoping that next year we can also launch our own React-based admin. That's the lack of coffee catching up with me. And we'll see where that takes us. So the idea is to improve the commerce user experience and to improve the commerce developer experience. And I already mentioned that we do releases each month, which means that we are still very open for your feedback. You go to the Drupal Commerce issue queues at drupal.org/project/issues/commerce, and you get to complain about whatever you want, and we'll fix it. We have our list of features that we want to chase, but we're always interested in what you found hard, what was missing, and what could be made better. I didn't want to go too much into specific features because plans change. And of course, it's not just about adding new features. We have a lot of work to do to simply stabilize what we already have, to make sure that each payment gateway, each ecosystem module has a stable release with all of the edge cases taken care of, with a lot of documentation, so everything you would expect from a stable project. And with that, we are ready for questions. I know that very often people want to discuss the dilemmas that they have, problems they've encountered, or simply how they can use commerce on their website. So I've left plenty of time for us to discuss something like that. And let's see who's not shy.
I didn't catch it good. Do you have an option to define the price per store? Like not the discount, but actual price?
Yes. Yes, so you can create price lists for different stores. And since a store very often represents countries, like there's a Scandinavian website where each Scandinavian country is represented by a store and they sell alcohol to them, they're using stores for that. So you can have completely independent prices for each store. I mean, previously you could also do it with individual price fields, but if you have like 100 prices for each product, it's better to have a price list and a completely separate UI and storage for that. So yeah, it's supported.
Yeah, you say that it actually represents the country, but what about like retail locations? So do you use the store actually for a retail location?
Yeah, so far we've used stores for retail locations. So if that location is the one that is doing the invoicing, if that's their address on the invoice, you would use stores for that. And that ensures that each store gets their own completely separate set of orders, which is important. And then, of course, you can also have promotions that are just for them, coupons that are just for them. So the question is whether you want to segment information that way. But of course, you can also have promotions that apply across multiple stores and products that are shared between stores, if that's a requirement. But it's working pretty well.
Yeah, that's the use case I was looking.
Cool. So there is a commerce stock module, and there's an alternative commerce inventory module that I haven't tried. So you would need to try both to see how they work. The idea with commerce stock was that they have separate warehouse entities, and then they have the concept of stock movement, so that you can track how stock changes between locations, and all of that is store aware, so that you can basically assign stores to warehouses and vice versa. So it should be good, but it needs more testing because I think the module is still in beta. It was designed for that though. There must be more.
The issue on the queue, like skip cart, when's that going to be resolved? Come on, we need work there.
So the question is
allow order types to skip.
Yeah, so the question is, when are we going to get the feature that allows you to split the cart, to skip the cart? Because sometimes you have products that do not need a shopping cart. Instead, you send people directly to checkout if you are registering for a training or an event, for example. Right now, you need to do custom codes to accomplish that, a few redirects and some access checks. It would be great to have that easier in commerce. There's a patch, and yes, I need to finish it. Shame on me.
How about like invoicing module or something like that? Like we get this, like a lot of the smaller clients that sort of like they only run an online shop, you know, they need their invoices sort of like in there as well.
Yeah, so there are different ways to do invoicing. The easy way that's usually enough for small clients is to make sure that the order number is sequential so that there are no breaks. That's the requirement. And you have the order number module for that. And it allows patterns, so you can do like 2018/0102 and so on. And then you just create a PDF file that shows the order receipt so that you can see the invoice number and you can see what was purchased. For the PDF generation, we have an issue that integrates entity print. So you can use entity print today to output that PDF. For many people, that's going to be enough. There's also a commerce invoice module that was started by the people at the platform, but it's for more complex use cases where you would want to invoice multiple orders at once or have one order be invoiced multiple times. So that's something that's going to be good in the future, but for the simple use case, you don't actually need it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we need to document this and we need to stabilize the entity print thing because they found it still has some CSS bugs. When you need to render a template into a PDF, it's not super easy. Any others? Okay, well, if you think of anything, yep, no. You would use Commerce license for that. The problem is that we don't have Commerce file yet, so you can offer a download, but it's going to be available infinite times. So you cannot say this user can only download this 10 times, and it's harder to revoke access. If that's fine, you can do it today. Otherwise, if you need download limits, that will require some more work.
What drives you when you need to decide what feature you will develop next?
Multiple criteria. So one is simply just how many people complain about it. Each issue has a number of comments and a number of people who are following it. We look at the issue queue sorted by that to see what's required the most, and we create a basic roadmap for that, and then we allow people to pay us to change our minds. Because very often there is a project in progress that needs this by Monday, and then they pay us to do that first. So some the priorities like that allowed us to do buy X get Y over the summer instead of something else. But we try to listen to user feedback a lot. Do you have a feature that you want to see? Cool. Well, I guess we're done. If you think of anything else, I'm here all day, and we'll probably be caffeinated more. And there's also Ryan, my more charming other half, so that you can talk business with him as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bojan. Samo poklon.